The transport shuttle rattled as it docked with Station Helix 7, and Ryan Cole pressed his face against the small window to get his first look at his new workplace. The research facility floated in the darkness of space, its metal surface covered with observation domes and antenna arrays. He had traveled 3 weeks to reach this remote station, leaving behind everything familiar on Earth to study alien creatures that most species considered too dangerous to approach. Ryan grabbed his single bag and made his way through the airlock. A tall reptilian figure waited on the other side, scales the color of dried mud, eyes that blinked sideways. The Dalvari extended a clawed hand in the human gesture of greeting, though the movement looked stiff and practiced. "Ryan Cole, I am Director Sulth. Welcome to Station Helix 7. The translator device on Sulth's chest turned his hissing speech into flat, emotionless words. "I trust your journey was acceptable. Long, but I'm glad to finally be here," Ryan said, shaking the offered hand carefully. "Dalvari bones were hollow and fragile compared to human ones. I've read all the reports you sent. The razor wing sounds fascinating." Sulth's scales rippled in what Ryan had learned meant discomfort. Fascinating is not the word I would choose. Dangerous, deadly. These are better descriptions. He turned and began walking down the corridor, and Ryan hurried to follow. 3 handlers died capturing this creature. 2 more were injured during transport. It has been sedated since arrival, and even then it tries to attack anyone who approaches. They passed through several security checkpoints, each one requiring scans and authorization codes. Other station workers moved aside as they walked, most of them Dalvari, but a few from species Ryan didn't recognize. All of them stared at him with obvious curiosity. Humans were still relatively new to the galactic community, and many aliens had never seen one in person. "How many humans work here?" Ryan asked. "You are the first," Sulth said. "When the razor wing proved impossible to handle, someone suggested we try human methods. Your species has a reputation for working with dangerous animals. I was skeptical, but Command approved the experiment." They reached a heavy door marked with warning symbols in multiple languages. Sulth pressed his hand against a scanner, and the door slid open to reveal an observation room. One entire wall was transparent, looking into a large containment cell beyond. Ryan stepped forward and got his first look at the razor wing. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, about the size of an earth wolf but built lower to the ground, with obsidian black scales that seemed to absorb light. Retractable claws scraped against the metal floor as it paced back and forth, in the same repeated pattern. Its eyes were orange like burning coals, and they tracked every movement in the observation room with predatory focus. Heavy restraints held its legs, connected to the walls by thick cables. "Why is it restrained?" Ryan asked, pressing his hand against the glass. "Because it is dangerous," Sulth said, as if this should be obvious. "Even sedated, it lunges at anyone who enters. We must keep it immobilized for everyone's safety." Ryan watched the razor wing pace. 3 steps forward, turn 3 steps back. Over and over. The restraints kept it from moving more than a meter in any direction. "How long has it been like this?" 17 days since arrival. 17 days in restraints. Ryan felt anger rising in his chest. No exercise, no enrichment, no stimulation. Sulth's scales rippled again. "It is a predator, not a pet. We are studying its physiology before it is euthanized. The creature's comfort is not a priority." "Maybe that's why it's aggressive," Ryan said quietly. He moved along the window, studying the razor wing from different angles. The creature watched him back, its burning eyes tracking his movement. "Look at its behavior. It's not hunting. It's pacing. That's stress behavior. Boredom and frustration. It killed 3 beings," Sulth said firmly. "That is not stress. That is its nature. Or it was defending itself." Ryan turned to face the director. "What were the handlers doing when they were killed?" Sulth pulled up a datapad and scrolled through it. The first death occurred during initial capture. The team was using electric nets and tranquilizer guns. The second and third deaths happened during transport, when the creature woke early from sedation. The handlers were attempting to administer another dose. So every time someone died, they were using weapons or chemicals on it first, Ryan said. "That's not murder. That's self-defense." "The distinction does not matter to the dead," Sulth replied coldly. Ryan looked back at the razor wing. It had stopped pacing and was staring directly at him now, head tilted slightly to one side. "I want to enter the containment cell," he said. The translator must have malfunctioned because surely it had not just correctly rendered those words. Absolutely not, Solth said. That is not permitted under any circumstances. Then why did you bring me here? Ryan asked. You said you wanted to try human methods. Well, this is how humans work with dangerous animals. We build trust. We establish communication. We don't do it from behind glass while the animal is drugged and chained. The answer is no, Solth said. I will not have another death on this station. You may observe through the window and provide behavioral analysis from a safe distance. Nothing more. Ryan wanted to argue, but he could see that pushing harder right now would accomplish nothing. Fine, he said. Can I at least see its feeding schedule and medical records? Solth provided the requested files, clearly relieved that the human was being reasonable. They spent the next hour reviewing data, while Ryan watched the razor wing through the glass. It had resumed pacing, that same repetitive three-step pattern that spoke of a mind slowly breaking under captivity. When Solth finally left to attend other duties, Ryan remained in the observation room. He pulled up a chair close to the window and simply sat, watching the creature and letting it watch him back. He didn't move aggressively or make threatening gestures. He just existed in the space, patient and calm. After 20 minutes, something changed. The razor wing stopped pacing. It sat down, haunches folded beneath its body, and stared at Ryan with those burning orange eyes. They regarded each other in silence, separated by reinforced glass and a galaxy of misunderstanding. I see you, Ryan whispered, and I'm going to help you. I promise. The razor wing tilted its head again, and for just a moment, Ryan could have sworn he saw something other than rage in those alien eyes, something that looked almost like hope. Ryan spent 3 days doing nothing but watching. He arrived at the observation room before the station's artificial dawn, and stayed until long after most of the crew had gone to sleep. He brought his meals with him, ate while sitting by the window, and kept a detailed notebook of everything the razor wing did. The patterns became clear quickly. The creature paced most when Dalvari handlers came to deliver food through automated systems. Its scales would bristle, claws would extend, and it would bare teeth that could tear through metal. But when the room was empty except for Ryan, the razor wing would settle down. It would sit and watch him, or sometimes lie on its side, those orange eyes half closed but never fully shut. On the 4th morning, Ryan found Director Solth in the administrative office. The Dalvari was reviewing reports on multiple screens, his attention divided between various projects. I need to go into the containment cell, Ryan said without preamble. Solth's scales did that ripple thing again. We have discussed this. The answer remains no. The razor wing is dying, Ryan said bluntly. He pulled up his data pad and showed Solth the notes he had compiled. Look at these feeding reports. It's eating less each day. Yesterday it refused food entirely. Its coat is losing luster and it's developed a tremor in its left front leg. These are signs of severe psychological distress. If something doesn't change, you'll have a dead specimen in less than a week. Solth examined the data, his eyes moving rapidly across the screen. The medical staff has not reported these symptoms. Because they only see it through cameras or when it's sedated, Ryan said. I've been watching it continuously for 72 hours. Trust me, this creature is shutting down. The director was quiet for a long moment, his clawed fingers tapping against the desk in a rhythmic pattern. Finally, he spoke. If I allow this, it will be under strict conditions. Full security team present, tranquilizer guns ready. At the first sign of aggression, you will be extracted immediately. Agreed, Ryan said. But the security team has to stay outside the cell. If the razor wing sees weapons, it will react defensively. That's what the data shows. Solth's translator made a sound that might have been a sigh. You are asking me to put your life in danger based on a theory. I'm asking you to let me do the job you hired me for, Ryan countered. If I'm wrong, you can say you tried the human method and it failed. If I'm right, you'll have the first successfully domesticated razor wing in history. Either way, you get valuable research data. It took another hour of discussion, but Solth finally agreed. They scheduled the attempt for the following morning, and Ryan spent the rest of the day preparing. He reviewed everything he knew about Earth predators and their body language. He practiced moving slowly and keeping his posture non-threatening. He barely slept that night, running through scenarios in his mind. When morning came, half the station's crew seemed to have found reasons to be in or near the observation room. Ryan ignored them. He focused on his breathing, keeping himself calm. Fear produced chemical signals that animals could sense, and he needed the razor wing to smell confidence, not terror. Salth gave him one last chance to back out. Ryan declined. The containment cell door opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Ryan stepped inside and the door sealed behind him. He was alone with a creature that had killed 3 times and injured countless others. The observation room full of witnesses might as well have been on another planet. The razorwing's head snapped toward him immediately. Its scales bristled, standing up along its spine like dark knives. A low sound came from its throat, not quite a growl, but close. Every muscle in its body tensed beneath those restraints. Ryan forced himself to move slowly. He walked 3 steps into the room and then sat down on the floor, crossing his legs beneath him. The position made him smaller, less threatening. He placed a small container of food pellets on the floor between them, then folded his hands in his lap. The razorwing stared at him. Ryan stared back, but not directly into its eyes. He had learned that prolonged eye contact meant challenge or aggression to many predators. Instead, he looked at the creature's shoulder, keeping it in his peripheral vision. Minutes passed. Ryan's legs began to cramp from sitting still, but he didn't move. The razorwing shifted its weight, claws scraping against metal. More minutes. Ryan could hear people whispering in the observation room, their voices muffled by the thick glass. The razorwing took a step forward. Just one. The restraints clinked softly. Ryan remained motionless. Another step. The creature was close enough now that Ryan could see individual scales, could smell its alien scent like hot metal and something sharp. Its breath came in short huffs, nostrils flaring. Ryan slowly extended his hand, palm down, fingers loose. He didn't reach toward the razorwing, just held his hand out in neutral space. An offering. An invitation. The razorwing's orange eyes focused on his hand. It lowered its head slightly, neck extending, bringing its snout closer. Ryan could hear his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. One bite could take his hand off at the wrist. One strike of those claws could open his chest. The razorwing's nose touched his fingertips. Ryan held his breath. The creature sniffed, its warm breath washing over his hand. Then, moving with incredible slowness, Ryan rotated his hand and gently, barely making contact, touched the top of the razorwing's head. The effect was immediate. The razorwing froze completely, every muscle locked. For 3 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then gradually the bristled scales began to flatten. The tension in the creature's body eased. Its eyes, which had been wide and wild, slowly narrowed. Ryan moved his hand in a small, gentle motion. A stroke. A pat. The razorwing's eyes closed fully for just a second, then opened again. The sound coming from its throat changed, becoming lower, more rhythmic. It was purring. In the observation room, someone dropped something with a loud clatter. The razorwing's head whipped toward the window, scales bristling again. But Ryan kept his hand moving in that same gentle pattern. And after a moment, the creature's attention returned to him. It leaned slightly into his touch. Ryan expanded his, movement stroking along the creature's neck behind what might have been ears. The razorwing settled onto its haunches, then lay down completely, its head now level with Ryan's. Those burning orange eyes watched him, but there was no rage in them now. Only curiosity and something that might have been contentment. They stayed like that for 20 minutes. Ryan petting the razorwing, speaking to it in soft, meaningless sounds while the creature that was supposed to be a mindless killer accepted affection from a being it could easily destroy. When Ryan finally stood to leave, the razorwing made a sound like a whine. It watched him walk to the door, and in those orange eyes Ryan saw something he recognized. Loneliness. The same loneliness he had seen in the eyes of abused dogs and traumatized cats back on Earth. The door sealed behind him, and the observation room erupted in excited chatter. Salth approached, his scales rippling in what Ryan was learning to recognize as shock. That should not have been possible, the director said. Ryan smiled. You just needed someone willing to try. News of what happened spread through Station Helix 7 like fire through dry grass. Within hours, every crew member knew that the human had touched the razor wing and lived. Some called it luck. Others said the sedatives must still have been affecting the creature's behavior. A few whispered that humans possessed some kind of telepathic ability that let them control animal minds. Ryan ignored all of it. He had work to do. Salth granted him regular access to the containment cell, though the director insisted on maintaining security protocols. Ryan didn't argue. He understood that trust had to be built in both directions. The station crew needed to see consistent results before they would truly believe. He established a routine. Every morning at the same time, he would enter the cell with food. Not the standard pellets the automated systems dispensed, but a variety of options he had researched. Dried meat from the station's food stores, protein bars from his own rations, even some vegetables to see if the razor wing might be omnivorous. The creature, which Ryan had started calling Ash in his personal notes, responded to the routine. By the third day, it would move to the front of the cell when it heard Ryan's footsteps approaching. By the fifth day, the low purring sound would start before the door even opened. Ryan brought more than food. He brought toys, simple things he crafted from station supplies. A ball made from compressed foam that Ash could push around with its nose. A length of rope that the razor wing could pull and shake. Enrichment, Ryan explained to the curious observers, was essential for intelligent creatures. And Ash was intelligent. That became clear quickly. Ryan started teaching it simple commands using hand signals and repeated words. Sit, stay, come. Within a week, Ash understood all three and would follow them consistently for food rewards. This is remarkable, Piv said one morning. She was a young Dalvery researcher who had started spending her breaks in the observation room, watching Ryan work. I have studied animal behavior for 6 years, and I have never seen a predator species learn so quickly. Because everyone treats them like they're stupid killers, Ryan said. He was sitting on the floor of the cell, and Ash was lying next to him, its head resting on his leg. They're not. They're smart and social. They just needed someone to communicate in a way they could understand. Piv's scales rippled with what Ryan had learned was excitement. Do you think it would accept another handler? Someone other than you? Ryan considered this carefully. He stroked Ash's head, feeling the warmth of its scales under his palm. Maybe, but it would have to be done slowly. The wrong approach could undo everything. I would like to try, Piv said quietly, if you would teach me. Over the next 2 days, Ryan coached Piv on everything he had learned. How to move, how to breathe, how to read Ash's body language. The young Dalvery was a quick study, asking intelligent questions and practicing the movements until they looked natural. Director Salth approved the demonstration, though he looked like he was already composing the incident report he would have to file when it went wrong. The observation room filled with station personnel, all wanting to witness either a breakthrough or a disaster. Ryan entered the cell first, as always. Ash greeted him with that rumbling purr, pressing its head against his hand. He sat down and let Ash settle beside him, then signaled to Salth that he was ready. The door opened again and Piv entered. Ash's reaction was immediate. The razor wing's head snapped up, scales bristling. It rose to its feet, positioning itself between Ryan and the newcomer. A warning growl rolled from its throat, deeper and more threatening than any sound Ryan had heard from it before. Easy, Ryan said softly, keeping his hand on Ash's back. Easy, friend. She's not a threat. Piv stood frozen just inside the door, her scales pale with fear. Ryan could see her fighting the instinct to run, forcing herself to follow his instructions. Slowly, carefully, she lowered herself to the floor and sat down. Ash's growl continued, but it hadn't attacked. That was progress. Ryan kept stroking the razor wing's back, speaking in that same calm tone. She's a friend, Ash, just like me. She wants to meet you. Minutes passed. Ash remained tense, watching Piv with those burning orange eyes. The Dalvari stayed perfectly still, barely breathing. In the observation room, Ryan could hear people whispering nervously. Then Ash took a step toward Piv. Just one step, but it was forward, not back. Curiosity winning over caution. That's it, Ryan encouraged. Go say hello. Another step. Then another. Ash approached Piv slowly, neck extended, sniffing the air. The Dalvari remained motionless. though Ryan could see her hands trembling slightly. Ash's nose touched Piv's outstretched hand. The razor wing sniffed thoroughly, gathering information. Piv was different from Ryan. Different scent, different texture to her scales, different heartbeat, but she wasn't threatening. She wasn't carrying weapons or chemicals. She was just sitting, patient and calm. Ryan spoke to Piv without taking his eyes off Ash. Now very slowly move your hand. Just a little. Touch the top of its head. Piv's hand moved like it was pushing through honey. Slow, careful. Her fingers made contact with Ash's scales, and the razor wing went completely still. For a heartbeat, Ryan thought it might attack. Then Ash leaned into the touch just slightly, and that purring sound started up again. Piv's face transformed with wonder. Her scales flushed with color, a Dalvery expression of joy. It's so warm, she whispered. I can feel its heartbeat. Keep going, Ryan said. Just like I showed you. Gentle strokes. Let it get used to you. They stayed like that for 15 minutes. Piv gradually became more confident, her strokes more assured. Ash accepted the attention from this new person, though it kept glancing back at Ryan as if checking that this was still okay. When Piv finally stood to leave, Ash watched her go, but didn't follow. The razor wing returned to Ryan's side and settled down, as if the entire interaction had been exhausting. The observation room erupted in applause and excited chatter. Solth approached the window, his expression unreadable. Commander Breivik arrives tomorrow, the director said through the intercom. She is a Karathi military observer. She has heard about your success with the razor wing and wishes to evaluate the situation personally. Something in Solth's tone made Ryan uneasy. Evaluate it for what purpose? She did not say, Solth replied. But Commander Breivik specializes in weapons development. Ryan's hand stilled on Ash's head. The razor wing looked up at him, sensing the sudden tension in his body. Ash isn't a weapon, Ryan said quietly. Perhaps you should tell that to the commander, Solth said. I suspect she will have a different perspective. That night, Ryan stayed in the observation room long after everyone else had left. Ash slept in the containment cell, curled up in a tight ball. It looked peaceful now, nothing like the traumatized creature Ryan had first seen 3 weeks ago. But peace was fragile, Ryan knew, especially when military interests became involved. He pressed his hand against the glass, wishing he could warn Ash that new dangers were coming. Dangers that had nothing to do with restraints and tranquilizer guns and everything to do with beings who saw living creatures as tools to be used. I won't let them take you, Ryan whispered to the sleeping razor wing. I promise. In the darkness of space outside the station, a military transport was already approaching. Inside it, Commander Breivik reviewed files on both the razor wing and the human who had tamed it. Her eyes gleamed with interest as she made notes in the margins. If one human could domesticate a predator in less than a month, imagine what a dedicated program could accomplish. Imagine an army of razor wings bonded to human handlers, loyal and deadly. The possibilities were endless. Commander Breivik was not what Ryan expected. The Karathi stood nearly 7 feet tall with dark blue skin covered in bioluminescent patterns that pulsed faintly with her heartbeat. She wore a military uniform that was all sharp angles and polished surfaces, and her 3-fingered hands rested casually on weapons that hung from her belt. She arrived with an entourage of 6 soldiers, all armed, all watching everything with professional paranoia. Solth met them at the main airlock and led them directly to the observation room where Ryan waited. Dr. Cole, Breivik said, her voice surprisingly melodious through the translator. Your reputation precedes you. I am eager to see this miracle of interspecies bonding. It's not a miracle, Ryan said, keeping his voice polite but firm. It's patience and understanding. Ash is intelligent. She just needed someone to treat her that way. Ash? Breivik's bioluminescent patterns flickered in a way that might have been amusement. You have named it? Her, Ryan corrected. I confirmed the gender last week. And yes, I named her. She's an individual, not an it. Breivik moved to the observation window. Ash was awake, pacing slowly around the cell. The razor wing had eaten well that morning and seemed relaxed, occasionally stopping to investigate the toys Ryan had left scattered around. Impressive specimen, Breivik said. Healthy, alert, well-muscled despite the captivity. Tell me, Dr. Cole, how long did the conditioning process take? The word conditioning made Ryan's jaw tighten. There was no conditioning. I built a relationship based on trust. That took about 3 weeks before she would let me touch her. Another week before she would follow basic commands. Only 4 weeks? Brevik turned from the window, her patterns pulsing faster now. Definitely interest. And she allows physical contact? Follows orders? Responds to your voice? Yes to all 3, Ryan said. But I don't give her orders. I make requests. There's a difference. A philosophical difference, Brevik said dismissively. Functionally, the result is the same. You say stay, the creature stays. You say come, it comes. That is obedience. That's cooperation, Ryan countered. Ash chooses to work with me because I've proven I'm not a threat. She could easily kill me if she wanted to. She's stronger and faster and has natural weapons I can't match. But she doesn't attack because she understands I'm a friend. Brevik hummed thoughtfully. Director Sulth mentioned you have successfully introduced a second handler. I would like to see that demonstrated. Perhaps with one of my soldiers? Ryan glanced at Sulth, who looked unhappy but nodded. That would need to be done carefully, Ryan said. Your soldier would have to follow my instructions exactly. Any aggressive behavior or sudden movements could trigger a defensive response. My soldiers are trained professionals, Brevik said. They follow orders perfectly. Something about the way she said orders made Ryan even more uneasy, but he agreed to the demonstration. Brevik selected one of her escorts, a younger Karathi male named Trev, who was shorter than his commander but still towered over Ryan. The soldier's bioluminescent patterns were a steady, controlled pulse. Professional. Calm. Ryan spent 30 minutes briefing Trev on the protocols. The Karathi listened carefully and asked good questions. He was clearly intelligent and took the instructions seriously. When Ryan felt confident that Trev understood the approach, they scheduled the demonstration for that afternoon. The observation room filled with station crew again. Word had spread that the military was testing the Razor Wing, and everyone wanted to see what would happen. Ryan tried to ignore the audience and focus on preparing himself mentally. He entered the cell first. Ash immediately bounded over, making that happy purring sound that Ryan had come to love. He spent several minutes just petting her and talking to her, getting her completely calm and relaxed. Okay, he said to the intercom. Send Trev in. The door opened and the Karathi soldier entered. He moved exactly as Ryan had instructed, slow and deliberate, keeping his body posture non-threatening. But Ash still reacted. Her scales bristled and she moved protectively in front of Ryan, that warning growl starting in her chest. Easy, Ash, Ryan said, keeping his hand on her back. He's a friend. Just like Piv, he wants to meet you. Trev lowered himself to the floor and sat, hands visible, making no sudden moves. Ash watched him intently, orange eyes tracking every breath. Minutes passed in tense silence. Then, just like with Piv, curiosity won. Ash took a cautious step toward Trev, then another. The Karathi remained perfectly still, letting the Razor Wing approach at her own pace. Ash sniffed Trev thoroughly. The soldier's scent was different from anyone she had met before, sharp and slightly metallic. But he wasn't threatening. He wasn't carrying the fear smell that usually accompanied violence. He was just sitting, patient and calm. When Trev slowly extended his hand, Ash allowed him to touch her head. The soldier's bioluminescent patterns brightened with surprise and pleasure. Remarkable, he said softly. She is very warm. Keep stroking, Ryan coached. Let her get comfortable with you. They worked like that for 20 minutes. Trev gradually earned Ash's trust, moving from head pats to stroking her neck and back. The Razor Wing accepted the new handler, though she kept glancing at Ryan as if seeking reassurance. In the observation room, Commander Brevik watched with keen interest. Her patterns pulsed rapidly, a sign of intense thought. When the demonstration concluded successfully and both men exited the cell, she approached Ryan directly. Dr. Cole, what you have accomplished here has significant military applications, she said without preamble. The Karathi Defense Force would like to commission a training program. We would provide funding, facilities, and a team of Razor Wings captured from various worlds. You would develop a standardized protocol for bonding these creatures to military handlers. Ryan felt cold despite the station's comfortable temperature. No? Brevik's patterns flickered with surprise. No? Ash isn't a weapon, Ryan said firmly. She's a living being who deserves respect and dignity. I won't turn her into a military asset, and I won't help you do it to others. Dr. Cole, you misunderstand, Brevik said, her voice hardening slightly. This was not a request. The Karathi military has jurisdiction over any research conducted in neutral space that has defense applications. Your work here falls under that category. Salth stepped forward, his scales rippling with distress. Commander, surely we can discuss this. Dr. Cole's methods are still experimental. More study is needed before any practical applications can be considered. Director Salth, I appreciate your input, but this decision is above your authority level, Brevik said. She turned back to Ryan. Dr. Cole, you have 3 options. 1, you cooperate voluntarily and lead the program under military supervision. 2, you refuse and we proceed without you, using your methods as we understand them. 3, you and the Razor Wing are both detained as military assets. You can't do that, Ryan said, anger flaring in his chest. I'm a civilian researcher. Ash is a research subject. In neutral space, military law supersedes civilian status when defense interests are involved. Brevik said, I am invoking Emergency Protocol 7. As of now, you have 72 hours to make your decision. Use them wisely. She turned and left, her soldiers falling into formation behind her. The observation room emptied quickly as crew members hurried away, unwilling to be caught in what was clearly about to become a serious conflict. Ryan stood alone by the window, watching Ash settle down to sleep in her cell. The Razor Wing looked peaceful, unaware of the threat hanging over her. Salth remained behind, his expression grim. I am sorry, Dr. Cole, I should have anticipated this. Military observers always have ulterior motives. Can you stop her? Ryan asked desperately. No, Salth said quietly. She has the authority she claims. In neutral space, military concerns trump all others. It is an old law, designed to prevent warfare. But it is absolute. Ryan pressed his forehead against the cool glass. 3 days. He had 3 days to figure out how to save Ash from becoming a weapon. 3 days to fight regulations and military power and the combined weight of galactic law. It wasn't enough time, but it would have to be. Ryan didn't sleep that night. He sat in his quarters, staring at his datapad, scrolling through galactic law documents and military protocols until his eyes burned. Every path he explored led to dead ends. Brevik had the legal authority. Station Helix 7 was in neutral space, which meant no single government had jurisdiction to override military decisions. Even if he contacted Earth's diplomatic corps, they couldn't help. Humans were too new to the galactic community to have that kind of political weight. He considered running, taking Ash and stealing a shuttle. But where would they go? Every inhabited system had sensors and security. They would be caught within days, and even if they somehow escaped, Ryan would be branded a criminal and Ash would likely be destroyed as a dangerous fugitive animal. There had to be another way. There had to be. By morning, Ryan had formed the skeleton of a plan. It was risky and required perfect timing, but it was the only option he could see. He sent coded messages to 3 people, Piv, Trev, and surprisingly, Director Salth. Each message asked for a private meeting. Piv arrived first, slipping into Ryan's quarters during the early shift change when corridors were crowded, and her presence would go unnoticed. I came as quickly as I could, she said, scales rippling with concern. What is happening? There are rumors that Commander Brevik wants to take Ash away. Not just Ash, Ryan said grimly. She wants to weaponize the entire species. Turn them into military assets. I need your help to stop her. Piv listened carefully as Ryan explained his plan. When he finished, her scales had gone pale. That is extremely dangerous. If we are caught, we could face criminal charges. I know, Ryan said. I won't blame you if you say no. But Ash trusts you. She needs you. The young Delvari was quiet for a long moment. Then her scales flushed with determination. Tell me what to do. Trev arrived next. The Karathi soldier was taking a significant risk just by meeting with Ryan, betraying his commander's interests. But something in the demonstration yesterday had affected him. That creature trusted me, Trev said quietly. In my 12 years of military service, nothing has ever looked at me the way she did. Without fear, without seeing me as a threat, just curiosity and willingness to connect. He paused. Commander Brevik wants to turn that trust into a weapon. I cannot be part of that. Ryan felt relief flood through him. Then you'll help? Tell me the plan, Trev said. Salth was the last and most crucial piece. The director arrived at Ryan's quarters in the dead of station night when most of the crew was asleep. His scales were muted with exhaustion and stress. I have been reviewing options, Salt said before Ryan could speak. There is no legal path to refuse Commander Brevik's authority. I'm sorry. I failed you and the Razorwing both. I'm not asking for a legal solution, Ryan said. I need you to look the other way for approximately 6 hours. Can you do that? Salt's eyes widened. You plan to do something that will get us both in serious trouble. Yes, Ryan admitted. But it's the only chance Ash has. Will you help me? The director was silent for so long that Ryan thought he would refuse. Then Salt let out a hissing sigh. 6 hours, he said. But I know nothing of what you do during that time. If questioned, I will claim you acted without my knowledge. Understood, Ryan said. Thank you. The plan would go into effect the next evening. Ryan spent the day acting as normally as possible. He worked with Ash in her cell, played with her, fed her. To any observer, it was just another routine day. But Ryan was memorizing everything. The feel of Ash's scales under his hand, the sound of her contented purring, the way her eyes watched him with trust and affection. If this plan failed, he might never see her again. Evening came. The station settled into night cycle, lights dimming, corridors emptying. Ryan waited in his quarters, watching the chronometer. At exactly 2300 hours, Salt would trigger a false alarm in the station's eastern sector. Nothing dangerous, just a malfunction in the environmental systems that would require immediate attention from most of the security staff. 100 hours arrived. Ryan heard the alarms begin to blare, heard the sound of running feet in the corridors. He gave it 5 minutes, then made his way to the containment area. Piv was already there, her hand shaking as she worked at the control panel. The security override is more complex than I expected, she whispered. I need another minute. Take your time, Ryan said, though his heart was hammering. Every second increased the chance they would be discovered. The lock finally disengaged with a soft click. The door to Ash's cell opened. The Razorwing looked up in surprise, not expecting visitors at this hour. Then she saw Ryan and bounded over, happy as always. Sorry, girl, Ryan said, stroking her head. We're going on a trip. Getting Ash through the station corridors was terrifying. Despite the false alarm, they still encountered 3 crew members. Twice, Ryan claimed he was conducting an emergency behavioral test. The third time, Piv created a distraction by dropping a container of equipment, drawing attention away from Ryan and Ash. They reached Docking Bay 4, where Trev waited beside a small transport shuttle. I have filed a flight plan claiming military training exercise, the Karathi said. We have a 6-hour window before anyone questions the paperwork. The real alarm went off just as they were boarding. Someone had discovered Ash's empty cell. Lights blazed to full brightness throughout the station. Security announcements echoed through speakers, calling for a full lockdown. Go, Ryan shouted. Trev jumped into the pilot seat and started the launch sequence. The shuttle's engines roared to life. Through the viewport, Ryan could see security teams rushing toward the docking bay. The docking bay doors were closing. Emergency protocol. They would be sealed in, trapped. Trev pushed the engines to maximum. The shuttle shot forward, racing toward the narrowing gap. Metal screamed as the shuttle scraped through with centimeters to spare. Then they were out, flying free in open space. Alarms filled the cockpit as Station Helix 7's defense systems locked onto them. Warning shots flashed past the viewport. Trev's hands moved frantically across controls, engaging evasive maneuvers. Where are we going? Piv asked, clutching a safety harness as the shuttle pitched and rolled. Somewhere they can't follow, Ryan said. He was kneeling beside Ash, one hand on her back. The Razorwing was frightened by the chaos but trusted Ryan enough to stay calm. Trev set course for the outer reaches. The unclaimed systems? That's lawless space, Trev protested. No protection, no support, no infrastructure. Exactly, Ryan said. No military authority either. We'll be on our own, but we'll be free. More weapons fire lit up the space around them. Then abruptly it stopped. Ryan looked back through the rear viewport and saw Station Helix 7 growing smaller in the distance. They weren't pursuing. Salt must have convinced them to let us go, Piv said softly. He will face serious consequences for this. Ryan nodded, feeling guilty but grateful. The director had risked everything to give them this chance. Trev engaged the faster-than-light drive. Space stretched and bent around them. When it normalized again, Station Helix 7 was gone. They were alone in the vast darkness, heading toward the unknown. Ash made a questioning sound, looking up at Ryan with those orange eyes. He stroked her head gently. It's okay, girl, he said. We're going home. Or at least we're going to make a new one. The shuttle flew for 3 days before they reached the outer reaches. Trev navigated carefully, avoiding major shipping lanes and registered systems. Every sensor contact made them tense, expecting military interceptors. But no one came. Either Brevik had decided they weren't worth pursuing, or Solth had managed to delay the official response long enough for them to disappear. They landed on a small moon, orbiting a gas giant. The moon had breathable atmosphere and basic geology that suggested water and potential resources. More importantly, it had no registered claims. No government, no corporations, no settlements. Just empty wilderness. This is it? Piv asked, looking out at the barren landscape of rock and scattered vegetation. This is where we will live? It's a start, Ryan said. We can build something here. Something better than what Ash would have faced back there. They spent the first week establishing a basic camp. Trev used the shuttle's fabrication systems to create shelter modules. Piv set up hydroponics for food production. Ryan focused on Ash, helping the Razor Wing adjust to this new environment. She seemed happier here than she ever had in captivity, running freely across the open spaces, hunting the small native creatures that lived among the rocks. On the 8th day, their scanners detected another ship approaching. Ryan's heart sank. They had been found, but the ship that landed wasn't military. It was a small cargo vessel, battered and old. A lone figure emerged, wearing a pressure suit with civilian markings. When the helmet came off, Ryan was shocked to see Solth Director. Piv rushed forward. What are you doing here? Are you in trouble? Yes, quite a lot of trouble, Solth said, his scales rippling with what might have been amusement. I was relieved of my position at Station Helix 7. Commander Brevik filed formal charges against me for aiding your escape. I will likely face a tribunal hearing when I return to Delvari space. Then why did you come here? Ryan asked. Because I'm not going back, Solth said simply. He gestured to his ship. I have brought supplies. Research equipment. Seeds for agriculture. Medical supplies. Everything I thought you might need to establish a proper settlement. Consider it my resignation bonus. Ryan felt emotion tightening his throat. You gave up everything. Your career. Your position. Your whole life. I gave up a life spent being afraid, Solth corrected. Watching you with the Razor Wing, I realized how much time I have wasted treating every unknown as a threat. You showed me a different way, a better way. He looked toward where Ash was visible in the distance, playing in a small stream. If an old Delvari can learn new methods, perhaps there is hope for this galaxy after all. They worked together for weeks, building a real settlement. More supplies arrived, sent by contacts Solth still had, people who believed in what they were doing. A communication array, solar collectors. Eventually, word spread through underground networks about the group that had rejected military authority to save a single creature. Others came. A Ven botanist who had been fired for refusing to develop biological weapons. A human engineer who had fled corporate exploitation. A pair of Talori siblings seeking refuge from political persecution. One by one, misfits and idealists arrived, drawn by the promise of a place where they could live according to their own principles. The settlement grew. They named it Haven. 3 months after their arrival, Ash gave birth to 4 cubs. Ryan had suspected she might be pregnant when they escaped, but he hadn't been certain. The cubs were tiny, barely bigger than Ryan's hand, their scales soft and their eyes still closed. Ash was a devoted mother, protective but trusting Ryan completely to help care for her offspring. This changes everything, Piv said, watching the cubs nurse. Ash was captured from the wild. These cubs are the first Razor Wings born in captivity and raised without trauma. If they grow up socialized with multiple species, they will have completely different behaviors than their wild cousins. A new generation, Ryan agreed, one that doesn't see other species as threats by default. News of the cubs spread quickly through their growing network. Scientists from multiple worlds sent requests to visit Haven, to study this unprecedented development. Ryan and Solth carefully vetted each request, allowing only those they trusted, those who understood that Ash and her cubs were family, not research subjects. One visitor surprised them all. Commander Brevik arrived 6 months after the settlement's founding, landing in a personal craft without military escort. Ryan met her at the landing pad, tense and ready for confrontation. I am not here to arrest you, Brevik said immediately. I am here to admit I was wrong. She explained that after Haven's founding, other stations had begun requesting human consultants for their animal research programs. The human approach of building trust rather than enforcing control was proving effective across multiple species. Military programs that tried to force bonding were failing catastrophically, with high casualty rates among both handlers and creatures. I wanted razor wings as weapons, Brevik said, but what you have created here is far more valuable. A proof of concept that cooperation works better than domination. The Karathi military is interested in funding Haven as a research center, with full autonomy, no military applications, just pure science. Ryan was skeptical. Why should we trust you? Because I brought someone to help convince you, Brevik said. She gestured toward her ship. Trev emerged, but he wasn't alone. Behind him walked a razor wing slightly larger than Ash, with scales that were dark brown instead of black. The creature moved calmly beside Trev, clearly bonded to him. After I returned to military service, I requested assignment to a conservation project, Trev explained. This is Storm. His habitat was destroyed by mining operations. He was scheduled for euthanization because relocation attempts failed. I used your methods, Dr. Cole. It took time, but he learned to trust me. Now he thrives. Ryan looked at Storm, then at Ash and her cubs playing nearby. He thought about all the creatures across the galaxy that were being destroyed because no one knew how to help them. He thought about what Sulth had said about wasting time being afraid. Full autonomy, Ryan said firmly. We decide what research happens here. We approve all visitors. The creature's welfare comes first, always. Agreed, Brevik said. Over the following year, Haven grew into something unprecedented, a multi-species settlement dedicated to the principle that trust and understanding could bridge any gap. Researchers came to learn human bonding techniques. Refugees came seeking a place where their differences were celebrated rather than feared. Young beings came to study at the informal school where humans, Dalvari, Karathi, and dozens of other species learned together. Ash's cubs grew strong and healthy, socialized with so many different species that they accepted diversity as normal. They would never know the fear and isolation their mother had experienced. They would grow up knowing only kindness. Ryan often stood at the edge of the settlement in the evenings, watching the sun set over their small moon. Ash would usually join him, pressing her head against his side in the gesture of affection she had learned from him all those months ago on Station Helix 7. You know what the funny thing is? Ryan said to her one evening, stroking the scales on her head. Everyone warned me you would bite. They said you were too dangerous, too wild, too aggressive to ever trust a human. But you proved them all wrong. You just needed someone to give you a chance. Ash made that rumbling purr sound, content and safe. In the distance, her cubs played with Dalvari children, their games filling the air with happy sounds. Storm was teaching a young Karathi researcher how to read razorwing body language. Piv was planning the next agricultural expansion. Trev was training new handlers in proper bonding techniques. This was what happened when someone chose trust over fear, when someone decided that understanding was worth more than control. One human, one razorwing, and a belief that connection was possible had created something beautiful. Haven thrived because someone had been willing to ignore the warnings and extend their hand in friendship. Because someone had chosen to give head pats instead of tranquilizer darts. Sometimes, Ryan thought, the most revolutionary act was simply refusing to be afraid.